like got knocked out or something, and when I woke up, all trace of like mankind was gone.
For me, it was like, hey, people have a like mind. I loved it. Found some good information.
Please, Mr. Zombie, please don't eat me. Please, Mr. Zombie, please don't eat me. Please, Mr. Zombie, please don't eat me. Please, Mr. Zombie, please don't eat me.
Our first focus is to keep the public safe from zombies. When that business is slow, we do outreach and education for disaster preparedness. The government and FEMA tell you that you need to be prepared to be on your own for 72 hours. And it's the same thing we do. There's a really good chance in a major disaster that they can't help you. And so you got to do it on your own. Using the analogy of zombies, we'll hold events that support things like Red Cross, Oregon Food Bank, or food banks in general. This is the message we bring to the people that we're communicating with, is that even the government is saying, we cannot help you for up to 72 hours. Just assume that.
The immersion program is basically a program designed to, in 9 months, put you in a position where you could wander out into the woods with as little as a pocket knife and survive indefinitely. The first term is all about the initial process as well as upkeep and scouting of what they consider like the village or the community. And then second term is craft trades and marine work like boat building and fishing. And then the third term is wilder, which is more a permanent location, animal husbandry and farming and permaculture. So theoretically, you could take this 9 months, and if you practice, you could wander out into the woods and live there for 20 years.
One of the things we do as Zombie Squad is we do focus our education and outreach to specific demographics that we feel are underserved. And these underserved demographics would be more accepting of guys like us walking up to them and going, yeah, we're Zombie Squad, we kill zombies. And, this is how we build bug out bags. These are things you should do at home to help prepare yourself for a big flood in case the next time the Willamette River floods over. Because we're Zombie Squad, that gives us the access that the Red Cross would not have. That's why the Red Cross contacted us, because they said, we want to reach these people. Can you reach these people? And yeah, because we are those people.
I think I'm interested in joining Zombie Squad more than anything else because it's the prospect of the zombies. I think a lot of zombie fans are slightly terrified that something like that could happen.
Zombie Squad membership is definitely heavier on the male side. I mean, the whole disaster preparedness, survivalist thing, and outdoorsy thing is, regardless of what people say, is a male-dominated thing. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, it's just how it is.
Well, there have never been very many women involved in our branch. Although, we're really small. There just aren't very many people. Our president actually was a woman. And when she left, it was kind of lonely. It actually does kind of make it harder to be as active because I'm not one of the guys.
One of the things that sometimes I haven't maybe attended certain meetings is because I did know that Wendy wasn't going to be there or somebody else wasn't going to be there. Because it is nice to have that little bit of kinship. I get along with the gentlemen of Zombie Squad great. I mean, they're all a great group of guys. I've never felt like they looked down upon me for being a woman.
I'd like to be able to say that gender is not a factor at all, but certainly it can be. In our group, it really isn't. I certainly think about how my gender factors into the work I'm doing and my dynamic with the group. Learning these skills is empowering for me as a woman, also empowering for me though as a privileged urban human too. It empowers me to extend beyond sometimes the expectations of my gender, but I would say that gender is only one of the many groupings in which I sometimes feel trapped.
We have been really working to equalize sort of the gender balance between males and females in our programs because we really feel that they aren't even necessarily gendered skills.
It's pretty much like a good general rule is half the length of that bow is going to be about your arrow length, which then you want to cut it a couple inches, a couple additional inches on either end.
And one of my focuses is to quash BS, and there's a lot of BS around women in their role in disaster preparedness, survival, and self-defense. I, for one, do not think women are defenseless. And one of the reasons why I think it's important to get more women involved is because women are there too. They need to defend themselves just like men do. I mean, there's no difference between men and women. And so why we would think it's different for women, I think it's rather illogical and ignorant.
I don't think it would be a disadvantage being a woman in a group like this, because I'm just as tough as any of these guys, and I know if I was confronted with a zombie, I would do the same thing any of these guys would. I think it's important to be prepared for all sorts of disasters, and I'm a big fan of zombie movies, so I know how to take care of myself.
I mean, as a blacksmith, even a lot of my style is rustic medieval fantasy. I mean, I'm into sci-fi for sure. I'm a big fan of Dune, which is great because it's a similar thing. You've got people on Arrakis are out there doing a similar survival thing in a desert setting. But I feel like the fantasy elements apply towards our potential apocalypse more than a Fremen suit does.
I play Dungeons and Dragons. I took a break for the last couple years, but I'm now running just May of this year, about 3 months ago. I started running another D&D campaign.
When I was about 8, I picked up my first Stephen King novel. I read that, and then that started 3 years where I read everything by Stephen King. You know, I was like obsessed with horror. I didn't get into zombies that much until the movie 28 Days Later. I saw that movie with my brother and my mom, and it was so good. You know, the zombies in that movie are like incredibly believable. I had like the worst dreams that night, and then after that I was like obsessed with zombies.
I like reading a lot of books with like that kind of explore philosophy and the universe. Daniel Quinn's Ishmael is a big one for me, as well as zombie books. Anything by Max Brooks, I just love it.
Zombies are definitely my favorite genre. I have been since I was a kid and snuck downstairs to watch a video of Dawn of the Dead 1978. Love any zombie movie. I read zombie comics, zombie books. I have written my own book.
I grew up watching a lot of Seinfeld, Saturday Night Live. I guess I was kind of into Star Wars and like, I don't know, just like normal stuff. I was really into Battlestar Galactica. I'm not a huge sci-fi nerd, but I hang out with a lot of sci-fi nerds these days, and so I've been getting turned on to that a little bit more. I don't get carried away in it. Now, I spend more time reading how-to books, how-to blogs, watching how-to videos that have relevant information for all the things that I want to learn to do that I never really learned growing up. In general, I've just been not as passionate about most popular culture anymore. So I just want to be able to like be completely satisfied in my free time by drinking homemade apple cider or mead and smoking homegrown tobacco, jamming with homemade instruments around a campfire.
I used to be a vampire fan, and let me just say, vampires do not sparkle. But zombies have kind of become they're pushing the vampires they're neck and neck. For me, it's not the zombie monster that I enjoy watching. It's the people surviving in that world.
I would not have gotten on the internet that day and found Zombie Squad if I wasn't looking for information on zombies. As much as I love zombies, I do not believe in zombies. I do see incidents such as 28 Days Later or something like that having the potential of being real.
The impetus to my interest in disaster preparedness and survivalism was just being a kid in the 80s growing up in the Cold War. I woke up on a daily basis thinking the Russians were going to nuke us at any moment. And so I wanted to survive the nuclear war. And of course there was all the movies like Road Warrior, post-apocalyptic movies. That's another thing that glues a lot of members of Zombie Squad together. We're all children of these post-apocalyptic movies. A lot of people would assume that I like zombie movies, and I only like about 4. One of the main reasons why I don't like a lot of zombie movies is because it's the same story over and over again. I would like to see a movie about people like in Zombie Squad who were like these nutty survivalist types who are all of a sudden like, oh crap, zombies, we know what to do.
It just sounds like it's gonna hit you.
We have the curriculum of shadows, which sort of teaches us to become one with the forest and move through it invisibly, just an awareness of what's happening in the forest around us. And in a zombie survival situation, that would be really useful, because if there's zombies around, I'd definitely want to be able to know and not get taken by surprise.
For me personally, most scenarios, if I'm looking at it from the perspective of disaster preparedness, most scenarios that would require being prepared to deal with them are problems that can be solved if we didn't rely on large organizational structures, whether it's large corporations, national governments, things like that, that make decisions for our lives.
More tins of fish, and I know I went in.
The word apocalypse. The one that interests me the most is the one that I think is more likely to happen, which would be economic collapse resulting in anarchy. And that one's interesting to me because you get into that concept of resource acquisition. There are a lot of resources in the average town. There's a lot of resources in the area around the town, like the forest and livestock. And so I'm interested in that concept of apocalypse being the opposite version of modern society.
What if you're locked in this room and you gotta pee? Well, a friend of mine, I haven't used them yet. I have a 6-pack of these. Johnny on the go. I'm gonna test this out and do a review on Zombie Squad. I'm gonna pee in my room.
Video use. Pee in the shower, just.
But what if I'm locked in my room?
Yeah, but
What if there's zombies everywhere but my bedroom?
Apocalypse is an event. The event is anything that brings an end to life as we know it. It's a gateway to a simpler time. If something were to happen and all power were to all of a sudden cease, there's nothing providing us with power, the world's going to change.
I think I'm only recently becoming aware that there is such a thing as like an American pop culture obsession with the apocalypse and the post-apocalypse. A year or two ago, I started to romanticize the concept of a post-apocalyptic scenario because, it's an easy way to eliminate everything you don't like about the existing culture and world and to just plug yourself into some badass role where you're like defining a new world.
I love my technology, but on the flip side, I would probably give up technology and go off the grid.
I've always liked the idea of living remotely and being self-sustaining, and where I'm not having to go to Safeway every 10 days.
I'd much rather be able to identify something edible and know how to render it edible and how to make use of it than work for someone to earn money to buy food that comes from who knows where. I think life is just more fulfilling when I'm engaging that way with it.
To the general American high schooler, teenager, it's not that popular because they've got cell phones and internet, and they all want to go off to college and continue living in this consumeristic world that has been created for us by corporate America.
Sure. Thank you, ocean spray. Some berries.
In my own personal post-apocalyptic fantasies, some of the things I'm escaping are the way an individual's life path is very much determined by what the system wants for the individual. Through mass media and globalization, it's made to seem like there's infinite possibility, but at the same time, really the things that we're being encouraged to do are so narrow. In the post-apocalyptic setting, the idea there is that everyone's brought down to a base level where you become, again, more intimate with what your actual needs are.
My ham radio and antenna, my GPS, N95 mask.
This idea that we can figure out the solution to any problem and we can build an escape mechanism for anything, and that science and technology are going to save us. To be modern is to always be building something bigger, and maybe bigger isn't better. I just feel like we are at the brink of something terrible. Sorry. No, it's okay. I think that we are coming to a time where we will not have the materials for modernism to save us anymore. I think that's part of the reason why I looked up ZS in the first place, and I think it's part of the reason why zombies are the 21st century boogeyman. We're perched on this brink where technology has taken us so far that it has sort of splintered off our ability to make communities, and it's destroyed our environment. We're like kids who run amok. And what's more run amok than a zombie, you know?
Number one, zombies are us. We get up every morning, we go to work, we do a job for somebody else simply so that we can have a roof over our head and food in our bellies. And then we come home and we put that food in our bellies, we go to sleep under that roof just to get up in the morning and start the whole process over again. When you look at a zombie, it's a zombie's whole intent in life is to feed. That's basically what we do. We feed ourselves, whether it be with social entertainment or actual food or our personal relationships. I look at the post-apocalyptic world as there's got to be something better. It's no challenge when if you want a steak from Japan, you go to the store and you get a Kobe steak. What about having to go out and find your own food? I like the idea of having more of a challenge to life instead of just the challenge of surviving this day-to-day mundane existence.
I mean, a lot of people fantasize about the house out in the middle of the woods with a pantry with a year's worth of food in it. I fantasize about that. But I like being in the city too. That's one of the reasons why that fantasy it for me probably won't come to fruition, because I love the city too much.
There ain't no shame in cheating and using gasoline, especially when you're cold. Normally, we do this. This is practice. As you can see in the background is my tent. I have a stove. And my truck is over there, all modern stuff. But over here where we're at, this is where it gets unmodern. I set up a little lean-to with a reflector.
There's definitely an over-reliance on technology when it comes to survival, just basic survival, not even disaster preparedness. When I go camping or hiking, I have at least 3 different ways to make a fire, if not more. So technology is important in having choices, but I do find it important for people to take classes, to practice, or at least explore primitive technology. And I do spend money on high-tech stuff, but then again, I also practice sleeping in lean-tos.
The goal is to build efficiency and proficiency in primitive use and skills, but there's no totalitarian idea to it. Even though the skills are focused on primitive, there's an understanding that this isn't pure anarchy in the 5th century.
When I was in town getting the firewood, like I was telling you earlier, I picked up some pork roast. We're gonna cook it over the fire. That's not really, hardcore or bushcrafty or nothing like that, but it teaches you like how to actually cook meat over the fire. So in case you are out doing something in the woods and you got yourself a squirrel or something like that, you know that if you can cook a strip of pork with a stick over fire, then you can do a squirrel or a little critter or maybe a fish or something like that you catch. But it's all just practice. Just like kitty cats when they wrestle, they're not really seriously fighting, but it teaches them to fight when they grow up. That's kind of what we're doing here. We're just kittens messing around. But it's still dangerous. And we did see a bear about 15 minutes ago, didn't we, Tiffany? Little baby bear scared the shit out of me. Now I know there's bears out here. I'm kind of scared. That's why I got a pistol.
If we get eaten by bears tonight, this will be the last living record.
It'll be like the Bear Witch Project. You'll be in my tent going, I'm sorry.
Technology is pretty important, though I'm not too willing to be a technological pro. But then again, I'm good at a lot of other stuff. One of the things that I promote is community, and one of the important aspects of community is having a lot of different people with a lot of different skills.
Trackers Northwest program is built on this concept of what does it take to run a community, a self-sustaining community.
You want to find a good squad or a good team. With Zombie Squad, that's what you look for, and that's what you develop is these friendships that you've got the guys that are better at this than that, and so they can help teach each other.
It's definitely not like people are going to laugh at you because you're here because you like Tolkien. It's nice having a group of people that don't ask, why are you doing that, in the sense that some people might. Modern society, people are always like, well, that's stupid, what are you doing that for? And here the question is, well, why are you doing that? That sounds interesting. And I like that.
These zombie movies and the zombie pop culture in general is what we thrive on. I mean, there's zombie walks here in Portland. We have a zombie prom that we've done stuff at. There's all kinds of zombie movie festivals that we go to, and not even zombie stuff, but like science fiction and horror festivals. I mean, those are genres that we can fit into, and those are all part of the subcultures that we all belong to, which glues us together.
Please, Mr. Zombie, please don't eat me. 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 Stuck in my room, gonna be my tomb. All I have is this not so handy broom.
Oh shit!
He ate my brother Bert, but he was kind of a jerk. I guess he should know